Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing French country thrift flips using IOD and JRV stencils. You can find a full product list in the description of this video and all your crafting needs on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Our first project is this lovely basket. I picked it up for $3. I loved the shape. I didn't, however, like the orange color, so I'm misting it first with my mister, and then I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's Tobacco Road Voodoo Gel Stain. This is a water-based stain, and this cane basket is not sealed, so I am able to come in now and tone it. I want to give it more of a warm brown tone. So I'm working my way around the basket, applying the Tobacco Road, and then I'm also using my mister to mist over the top of the product to help it move. I'm just using a chip brush to apply it, and then I'm using a paper towel to wipe back the excess and also blend that tone. I'm also going to be doing the sides and the bottom. I much prefer a lovely warm brown tone when it comes to my baskets, but if you wanted, you could definitely do more of a whitewash look here, or perhaps even a grey tone. It's just up to you and what your tastes are. Once I've finished completely covering the basket, I'm going to allow this to dry thoroughly. I'm now going to be using the Mini Advertising Labels Stencil by JRV. I specifically selected the cotton design from that pack because this basket actually reminded me of a tobacco basket and cotton stems and all that wonderful farmhouse goodness, and I really felt like this stencil really lent itself to this basket. To stencil, I'm using a small artist brush and I'm using Dixie Belle's Umber Silk Mineral Paint for my design. One of the reasons I picked this is that it has a built-in sealer, so I'm not going to have to seal my stenciling if I don't want to. To get a nice clean design, you really want to make sure that you are offloading most of your paint onto a paper towel or something so that you don't get any bleed through underneath your stencil. That's really the key there. That's why a lot of people get bleed through. They've just got too much paint on their brush. I'm also adding my paint in a dabbing and swirling motion. While I'm stenciling today, I'm just holding it in place. However, it can be a good idea to use a spray adhesive to keep your stencil down if you're worried about it moving, or even perhaps some tape. Once my image is completely dry, I'm going to lightly distress and seal it with Rust-Oleum's Clear Matte Sealer. And here's our finished basket. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think that stain really toned this beautifully, and that stencil really finishes it off. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Our second project is this lovely tray that I've picked up for a few dollars. I've already sprayed it with Rust-Oleum's Clear Matte Sealer so that my paint will bond. I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's Buttercream Chalk Mineral Paint now. I am going to do 2 coats to get the coverage that I want. I know that some people can get upset when I paint silver trays, but this was so beat up and so worn out. I just really want to give it some new life. I wanted to make this tray a bit more like an artwork, so we're going to frame it out and I'm going to paint the border with Dixie Belle's Vintage Duck Egg Chalk Mineral Paint. I'm using an angled small artist brush and just painting the edges by hand. It doesn't matter if I make a mistake, I can always come in with some more buttercream and top up the area where I've gone over the lines, but I'm also thinking that I'll probably end up distressing the border, so it doesn't matter too much if it's not perfect. I really have a vision for this piece, and we are going to be using transfers shortly, and I really wanted some blue to tie in with the design that we're going with. For today's project, I'm going to be using IOD's Floral Anthology and Brocante transfers. I'm starting with the Brocante transfer, and I've really wanted to use these little birds here, particularly the ones with the blue on the bird's feathers, but I also wanted some text to go up the top, so I am cutting out some of the text in the rest of the booklet. There is so many designs to pick from in this transfer. It is such a beautiful design. It's definitely one of my favorites. Now I'm going to start positioning my transfers, planning out how I want my design to go. I want the birds to sit in the center and I want some text up the top, but I want to add some florals. So I'm grabbing my Floral Anthology transfer. I've already used this a lot on other projects, but I'm going to grab this design here and I'm actually going to end up cutting it because I'm going to have bits of the florals just peeking down from the top. And that also means that I get a little bit more from my transfers. I can split this up and I get a bit more use out of them. It goes a little bit further. So I'm laying it down where I want it and I'm using my fingernail to crease a line so that I can now come in and cut it. I want it to sit in that curve. So I'm trimming the transfer, and then this one I'm also going to have to come in and manipulate that and trim it so that it will fit in the space that I need it to. So I'm just repeating the same process, creasing the transfer where I need to cut and then very carefully coming in and trimming off the excess. I'm also mindful of balance and symmetry while I'm doing this. I want the florals to sit in the same section on the opposite side to the ones we've already positioned. So I've got them all trimmed out the way that I want them to go, and now I'm going to very carefully peel off the backing and position it where I want it to go and then press down. I'm then going to use my fingernails just to get it started, and then I'm using the transfer tool that comes in the pack and I'm going to start burnishing and rubbing. And as I'm doing that, I'm lifting back the plastic carrier sheet, and as you can see, these come off really easy. I'm further burnishing it with the carrier sheet that it comes on. Repeating the same step for the other side as well. Now with this one, the transfer did overlap a little bit into my blue border that I've painted, but I'm not worried because I can come in and I can actually paint over the top of that. They are thin enough that it's not going to be obvious if I have to paint over it. I now need to position my text. I've realized that it's going to be easier if I can actually trim up the text so I can position it exactly how I want it. So I'm trimming off the first text to go up the top in the center. I'm going to position it where I want it to go and then very carefully press it down and start rubbing. Now, particularly with letters, you want to go slow as you're lifting. They can be a little bit fiddly and you want to make sure that you get them transferred without ripping them. So again, I'm trimming apart this text to make it a bit more easy to work with. Don't be afraid to do that. You can turn these transfers into anything that you want. You can make them fit whatever project you have. It really is up to whatever vision that you have. So here you can see I'm burnishing this one, and again, they can be a little bit fiddly, so just take your time with these. If you don't have access to a transfer with lettering, but you want to achieve a similar look, you could always come in with some stamps for this part, or you could use a stencil. The same goes for the florals and the birds. If you don't have these, you could always use decoupage paper or napkins. You definitely don't have to have the exact same products that I'm using today. This is just an example of how I'm using them. I was going to add that other bit of text there too, but decided to add the birds instead. So I'm positioning the birds in the center. I absolutely love these and I've been looking for the right project for them for a while. So I've pressed them down and now I'm going to burnish them with the transfer stick. I'm rubbing all over to start off with. Then I've picked a corner and I'm going to get started. I'm slowly lifting the plastic as I'm rubbing, and if I find that some of the image has not transferred, I simply put it back down and rub. So you definitely want to lift that carrier sheet very slowly so that you don't rip the design. These images are very, very thin and you don't want to accidentally damage them or rip them. So definitely have that patience and take your time while you're doing this. If that larger piece of carrier sheet that you're having to hold is becoming a bit cumbersome, remember you could always pause what you're doing and trim off the excess before you keep going. Next, I'm going to add that bit of text down the bottom. I feel like this really balances the design. So again, positioning it where I want it and then very carefully burnishing the design down. Now that I have all my transfer pieces down, I'm going to use a little bit of that vintage duck egg and just cover over that bit that overlapped. I'm then coming in with a fine grit sandpaper and very gently distressing my images. I like to do this because it gives it more of a vintage feel and makes it look less like I've just stuck a sticker on my project. When you do this, you'll notice that some of the sanding dust is colored. Just take a baby wipe. It's pretty easy to wipe that off. I'm now going around and distressing the edges of the tray as well. You're going to see a little bit of the buttercream underneath and also hints of that silver poking through. To seal my transfers and my paint, I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's Gloss Clear Coat. This is also going to be the base for our next step. I'm now going to be using Dixie Belle's Grunge Glaze, and I'm applying it more heavily to the outside border so that it will catch all of those details and it will sit in the grooves. I'm then wiping back the excess with a paper towel, and I'm also adding some to the center and using a paper towel and a baby wipe to wipe back a lot of the excess. If you've been watching me for a little while, you know I love everything vintage and glazed and grungy, so you could always leave this step out if it's not for you. And here's our finished tray. I love how this turned out. I'm so glad I was finally able to use those beautiful birds on a project. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Our final project today is this little planter that I picked up for $2. I thought it looked lovely, but the color was a bit drab, so we're going to give it a makeover. First, I'm removing that rope from the handle area and I'm giving it a wipe over. I'm then using Dixie Belle's French Linen Chalk Mineral Paint over the entire thing. I love this little pot. It's made to look like an old Hessian sack, and I think it is just so cute. I'm really loving all the details and the texture that's already on this piece. So we're painting the inside out and also the bottom. After my 2 coats of the French linen are dry, I'm sealing the entire thing with Dixie Belle's Gloss Clear Coat. I'm then going to be using the Mini Grain Sack Stencils by JRV. I'm using Umber Silk Mineral Paint and my small artist brush, offloading the excess, and we're going to start up the top, and I'm just taking some of this lettering here and adding it to the top. This is a tricky surface, so I know I'm not going to get a perfect image, and in fact I don't want one. I want this to look faded and vintage and old, so I'm okay with that. So I'm coming in and I'm just using a little bit of text in the center as well, and again, we're not going for perfection here. This is a very tricky surface. It's all uneven and all different levels. I'm also going to use the same brush to go around some of the edges and to add a bit of depth to the piece. We want it to look basically like it's a little bit dirty and worn, so I'm just catching the edges of the top, being a little bit darker up the top, and then I'm also going to catch some of the edges around the rest of the planter. If you don't like a grungy look, you would just leave this step out. You could always use a brown or dark wax for this step to do a bit of shading and to add a bit of depth. I'm coming in with another tone now, and I'm going to be using Dixie Belle's Whitewash Glaze. Now I'm going over the top of my text. It is going to make it fainter, but that's fine. We want this to look old and faded, and what I'm loving here is the different tones and how the white is sitting in all of the details, and the darker colors that we already added are just being a little bit muted. So you can see here that it did fade a lot of the text, but that's okay. I'm also going to be adding it to the inside and the bottom. Once the glaze has completely dried, I'm going to reattach the little rope handles. I didn't mind these, I thought they already looked a bit weathered and worn, so we're just attaching them back as is. And here's our finished planter. I think this turned out really sweet, and I love how the lettering looks authentically aged and worn. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video and that it's inspired you to give stenciling or maybe transfers a go. Let me know if you had a favorite from today's video. If you enjoyed today's projects, please give this video a thumbs up, comment, and share it out to a friend that you think might enjoy it. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find the products used in today's video on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.